Hey, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're doing, wherever you are. I'm glad that you're here. Hey, today I get to talk to Rob Parker. He is one of my favorite sports journalists, sports celebrity smart guys. He is wicked smart. You can find him at getrob.com or my favorite spot to catch him with Chris Broussard from 4 to 7 Pacific, 7 to 10 Eastern on Fox Sports Radio on The Odd Couple. And he's also the author of this fun book, If I'm Writing, I'm Rippin'. What's up, Rob? How you doing, man?
Man, Phil, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for the plug on my book as well, but great to be here.
Cool. Well, it's good to have you here, man. And I got to tell you, your book reads just like you are on the radio, which is a big compliment because when I listen, I'm like, oh, I hear Rob's voice through that book. But how in the heck did you get that voice? Like, where did you find that confidence to write and rip people like that, man?
You know what? That's a great question. And I've been fortunate. I was one of those kids who wanted to be a sports writer since he was 9 years old. So it's been a long time in the making. And I'm going to share a story. I was at Columbia Journalism School, and I had a teacher, professor named Joanne Lee. And at that time, this is 1988, I was 24. I was already a full-time staff writer at the Daily News in New York. Most of my classmates were still trying to, get into the business and learn as much as they could. And I was already at the biggest paper in the country. And Professor Lee pulled me aside into her office one day and she said, Robert, you know what? You know what a story is. You know how to write a lead. You're already working at the highest level in journalism already. But I need more from you. She said, I need more. I need you to dig deeper. I need you to go beyond the surface. And she had she grabbed her fist like she had a knife in it, imaginary knife, and Phil, no lie, she walked up behind me, stuck it in my back, and she said, I want you to stick it in, turn it, and draw blood. That's what I want from you. And that always stuck with me. So I don't write these middle-of-the-road columns. I'm either in love with you or I'm trying to kill you, one of the two. That's really where it comes from.
Oh, I love that, man. I mean, that totally is true. It's interesting that, you do help that bleed out every single time, man. Everybody, whether I agree with all you say or not, which I don't think anybody agrees with everybody. Let me be clear.
You don't want people to agree.
No,
you want everything that I said. You wouldn't even listen to me, Phil.
That's right. No, for sure. Right. And that's my point. I love that, you always have passion though. You always bleed too on the paper and on the show every time that you do, whether you're on the Herd or Undisputed or wherever you're on, I catch it. I'm like, this guy really gets it. And I love that you had someone that empowered you, but how did you transition from being like this awesome writer about baseball? Cause you're in the Hall of Fame, right? In the Baseball Writers Hall of Fame.
I'm not in the Hall of Fame, but I vote for the baseball.
Or vote for that's what it is. You vote for the Hall of Fame, right? So how did you transition though from being a sports writer to now being a sports celebrity, really, Rob, in many cases?
You know what? It was weird because I would be invited. I've always wanted to be a newspaper reporter. This is a true story. As a kid, growing up watching The Odd Couple, the old TV show.
Yeah.
And Jack Klugman played the role of Oscar Madison, his sloppy sports writer. And I was a kid watching, and I used to say, man, that's the job I want, man. He goes to the ball games, free hot dogs, and all this stuff. He travels all over the country. I was like, this is an awesome job. And so that was really where I really got the idea of doing it. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
So how'd you transition to TV?
Okay, right. So that was to be a writer. So I did that, and then I started getting invited to be on other people's radio shows and stuff. And people always put me on because I had an opinion. Like a lot of guys try to play both sides of the fence, and they're milk toast. They don't want to say anything to offend anybody. Those guys don't play on the radio and television. So when I first got hired I was in Detroit, 1993, and they were starting the all sports station, WDFN, the first all sports station in Detroit. And Lorna Gladstone was the program director. She called me in to interview me. And she said, people say, that you're really electric rod, and lightning rod, and you have a lot of things to say, and that's what we're looking for. And she hired me, no lie, in about 5 or 10 minutes of our conversation. I had never had a radio show or anything. And then she offered me the afternoon drive show and for me to pick my partner. I mean, it was a lot of responsibility. This is an upstart station.
Wow.
So that's really, so that's how I got into radio. And the same thing, there was a guy in Detroit named Fred McLeod, the late, great Fred McLeod, was a basketball announcer, did the Pistons and the Cavs. And he put me on his Sunday night sports show in Detroit and just fell in love with my opinions. And this guy, he wanted me on the show so much, he wouldn't even allow me to take vacation. If I went somewhere or whatever, he said, bring a blazer with you, and I need you for 30 minutes at the local station, wherever you are, no matter where you are, we want you on the show.
That's awesome.
That's really how television and radio became a part of, what it is that I do.
That's cool, man. I love that. I love that, the opinion is what matters. Cause no milk toast, man. I would say, you and Cowherd, man, are the two guys that just give it to us, right? Every single time. It's, it's always interesting to hear, and you always have good research to back that up. So how much time, Rob, do you spend prepping for a show every day?
Yeah, there's a lot throughout the day. A lot of friends of mine and people they send me stuff all the time. So I'm constantly they know I'm in the business. I'm interested in all. So if they see something interesting, they'll send it to me.
Oh, cool.
I'll usually read it. And if I like it or can use it, I'll jot it down in my notes. And you got to be prepared. It's not everybody has an opinion, but what you want at the end of the day is somebody like Phil, you might disagree with me, but if I give you enough, I'll give you my opinion and I can back it up with some other stats or facts. What you'll say is, I don't agree with you, Rob, but I know how you got there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If there's an opinion and you can't figure out how did you get there, then you have to question it. Is this legit? Is he just pulling my string? Is he just trying to get me worked up, or is this guy serious?
Yeah, no, that's so interesting because I think about Facebook now and I think about everybody thinks they have an opinion, but they just have an idea. An opinion to me is something that's educated, right? You've got something to back it up, something you read that makes some sense, something that saw that. And I read your article in there about, when you talked about the Patriots. I got to tell you, Tom Brady's my favorite quarterback. Just because I love that he wins, I love that he works hard, right? His pliability. I think that's cool.
Right. I understand. It would be a lot of people love Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, but you're ripping him, man. You're saying like Deflategate, right? But you back it up. And I think that's the big thing that really gets me about you is you're always pushing that to share. Okay, well, this is why I think it, right? I love your point. So tell me about why you think that Brady did that whole Deflategate thing, just from a backing it up. Not that I'm trying to make you rehash that, because I think that's fascinating.
But as you know, I call Tom Brady the LOAT, the luckiest of all time. And I always break down the Super Bowls where things went his way. It doesn't mean that he's not a great quarterback or he didn't make the play after the door was open, but a lot of things, that. You watched that Seattle Super Bowl. There's no way you were thinking that. If you remember listening to the game, I think it was, I don't know if it was Chris Collinsworth or whoever, they were like, the Patriots have to let them score. They were talking about they're going to run it in to let them score so that they can get the ball back. Do you remember that? And
of course.
One interception. But anyway, when it comes to Brady, say that point again.
The quarterback thing, right? How you got that insight from Joe Montana.
Deflategate, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, the thing was, this is what, well, if you remember, go back that year, the Patriots did not fumble the football. And there's a reason that there's specifications for the ball, because you can make it whatever you want it to make it, mush so that you can't lose it. There's a degree. And my only thing with the Tom Brady and the Deflategate was I can remember Peter Alexander from NBC News asking Tom Brady, is Tom Brady a cheater? And his response was, I don't think so. Who answers a question like that? No, I'm not a cheater. And I would have had a lot more respect if Tom would have said, it's my fault. I asked the ball boys to take the air out. I didn't realize it was underneath specifications. Now, wouldn't you? I would buy that. You would buy that. There's no suspension. I mean, how can anybody argue with that? Instead, he's destroying his phone. They're going through his personal records. They see he has 100 text messages with the ball boy, but he doesn't know him. Unless you're in a relationship with the guy, why would you have 100 text messages with the ball boy? I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well, and then you said what Montana said, which I think really, for me, that's what cinched it up. And you said Montana said that the only person who would touch the ball, who would make that request, wouldn't be the kicker, wouldn't be the head coach, wouldn't be the backup quarterback, wouldn't be the punter. It would have to be the quarterback because it's the only person that it makes a difference to.
Absolutely. You can't tell me the ball boy is playing around with the ball and Tom Brady doesn't know it. It's just not true. And the quarterback is the guy that's the most important with the football, so he would know. And I just think Tom, instead of just coming clean, I think he put a mark on his record that he didn't have to. People would have given him the benefit of the doubt had he just owned up to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true in a lot of cases, right? If we own our mistakes and say, hey, you know what, I screwed up. That one's on me. I'm going to take that. Most people are really forgiving. So
this is a forgiving country. It just is. And I don't understand why guys to this day don't realize that. All people want you to do is acknowledge that you made a mistake. That's it.
Yeah. So what do you think about the whole steroids thing, Rob? Do you think that they should be in the Hall of Fame with an asterisk? I mean, because I really think, right, there's greenies and they were drunks in the 50s and 60s, man. And we knew that, but there's no asterisk for them. What do you think about that?
They should be in the Hall of Fame, but without an asterisk. No asterisk to me. I don't believe in them. I do vote for Bonds. I do vote for Clemens. Their numbers keep going up. I believe they will get in. Maybe their 9th or 10th year at the end, they'll realize that you can't have a real Hall of Fame without two of those guys who were two of the greatest players who ever played. Pre-steroids, after steroids, whatever you want to say. Bonds and Clemens were two of the greatest I ever saw play.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that would be a great disservice, especially Pudge Rodriguez got in on his first go round. Everybody knows he was in the Jose Canseco book. Jose Canseco even wrote in the book that he used to stick Pudge. You know, Mike Piazza, there's always been rumors about him. You know, Biggio. I mean, there's just, for me, you got to be consistent, and you can't just pick out one or two guys. Either everybody should be allowed to get in or nobody, and that's just not the case. We know people who have used steroids are in the Hall of Fame, so I don't understand why my brother, and this is one we get wrong, or why we feel we should be punishing people. When I look up the stats to see the home run king in Major League Baseball, Barry Bonds' name is there. Those home runs count. And here's the other part that people never talk about. We want to punish Bonds and we want to punish Clemens and people like that. But instead, the managers who benefited from those, like Joe Torre and Bobby Cox and Tony La Russa, they're all in the Hall of Fame, right? So they benefited off of guys who were using it. Nobody's asked the Yankees to give back their World Series championship. Nobody's asked the Red Sox to give theirs back. So which one is it? Either we wiping everything or we're not doing anything. So all you have to do is put in on their plaques that they were involved, or whatever, a line in their plaque about their involvement or whatever you want to do, and people will decide for themselves.
Yeah, I think so, right? I think you put them, well, you just put them in a contextual wing, right? I mean, every era has a wing as you really think about it, right? Every era has a context.
To me, it would be like, we don't discount Babe Ruth's numbers. He never played against black or Hispanic players. There's some of the great players in the game. He was in an all-white era. We respect it, right? We just respect it.
Yeah.
We don't discount him and say, well, he never played against some of the greatest players who ever played. We accept his numbers. We know that was the segregation era, right? That's all we have to.
Yep, that's right.
Segregation era. Same thing. We have the dead ball era. We have all the high mound era. We know that there were pitchers who benefited when you had Don Drysdale and Bob Gibson and guys like that who had great ERAs and pitch, but they had an advantage because guys couldn't hit because the mound was too high, right?
Yep, that's right. I totally agree. Totally agree. So let's talk about now, Rob. Let's fast forward to now. We think about, so you think the NFL is going to play this year?
I think they're going to give it a shot and give it a try.
Yeah.
I think football's harder. I mean, baseball is the perfect socially distant game, and football's not going to be in a bubble like the NBA. I don't know. Too much sweat and spit and people on top of each other mixed in with with doing your own thing and going out. Are you going to infect the whole locker room. We just don't know. They'll try. I think they're making a mistake by some of these teams that want to have fans in. I just think the more chance that you're going to have issues, and I just don't understand. Just take the L. Everybody has to take the L this year. It's a tough situation. So I'm hoping we get it going and get it started. I'm happy baseball's being played. I'm happy the NBA and NHL's going. So hopefully we can get the NFL. And I'm against colleges playing. I don't think kids. It's not like pro football. These guys are adults making adult decisions, have a right to opt out. They're getting paid millions of dollars. You're asking college kids to play in an unsafe environment, and all these coaches who are standing up, talking about we got to do it for the kids and all this. It ain't about the kids, because at the end of the day, it's about the money. And down the road, is Jim Harbaugh or Nick Saban going to be there holding the bag? They're not going to be holding the bag at the end when these kids are sick or we lose kids or they have long-term damage or whatever it is that we don't know yet. Those guys, and then they want the kids to sign waivers. So that tells you right there that they know it's not safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Rob. So as we kind of wrap this up, right? You ripped a lot of folks in here. So who's next, man? Who are you going to rip next? Who do you got that hasn't been in your book, man?
Yeah, everyone. One day we were doing a radio show in Detroit, and we did this thing. Who wasn't rippable? Like, who couldn't you?
Yeah.
Rip? And we realized that everybody's rippable, no matter what. At some point, you could rip Michael Jordan for some of the stuff that he did with teammates, and I think everybody is in line. But to me, it's it's one of those things that I think it's good to take you don't want to be like just worshiping people. Take a good, honest look at people, and doesn't mean that everything that they do in every column I'm ripping somebody, but I do think that a more critical look at some of these athletes is worth reading instead of everybody writing the same story, which happens often.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. So last thoughts here. You just started your podcast, Rob. Talk to us a little bit about your new podcast on the Cowherd Podcast Network.
Yeah, it's called Inside the Parker, all baseball podcast. It is fun. It's about 22 minutes. It's really good. A lot of fast-paced baseball knowledge. A lot of different people are inputted. It's not just, me talking for 30 minutes or anything like that. This week on the podcast, we have former Met legend and Yankee legend Dwight Gooden talking about baseball, in the current state of baseball. We also have Pedro Gomez, who, of course, the national correspondent for ESPN, one of the all-time great baseball guys. We were covering baseball together back in the 90s. I've known him my whole career. Just a smart guy, loves baseball. And so those are the guys on this week's show. And you can find it called Inside the Parker on the Herd Podcast Network, and it drops every Thursday morning.
Awesome. That's the same time my podcast drops. That's awesome, man. So last thought, Rob, is there anybody that you want to get in front of, any athlete that you're like, you know what, I'd like to spend some more time with them, either personally or professionally, that you maybe haven't been able to?
I would love to interview Brady one day, just on a professional. Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to do an interview with Brady and talk to him about a few things, even his Uggs, but that's another story.
There you go.
And, covering baseball is close to my heart. So there's a couple of guys who I covered during the time when I was covering baseball who are all retired. Eric Davis, who played for the Cincinnati Reds. David Justice for the Atlanta Braves and Cleveland Indians. Darryl Strawberry for the Mets. Those are guys that I love to connect with and hang out and just talk to. Cecil Fielder, who played for the Tigers, who I got to know real well. So those 4 or 5 guys, I love to just pal around and talk baseball and hang out with them.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to talk to you, Rob. Thank you very much, man. Go to getrob.com to get some more Rob Parker. Listen to The Odd Couple. Just tune into Fox Sports Radio. Rob's on there all the time, on The Herd, on The Odd Couple, all the things. So last question, though, Rob, Oscar or Felix, who are you?
When it comes to, I'm Oscar, the sports writer, but if you can see my apartment behind me, it's more like Felix because it's clean.
There you go. I was just thinking that. Cool, man. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with me, Rob. It's great to chat with you, man. You're the best. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for your